Hey, what's up guys, Tommy14 here, and welcome to round number 18 of the Kimi Raikkonen F1 2015 career mode. We're here at Brazil, and as we can see, we've already won the championship by quite a considerable margin. 129 points ahead of Nico Rosberg and 135 ahead of Lewis Hamilton. With Sebastian Vettel, our teammate, 160 points behind us, so he's got a 31 point gap to second place man Nico Rosberg, so he's still able to get second place in this championship, but it's going to take an awful lot for Sebastian Vettel to overtake both Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg for second place. So it's likely Sebastian Vettel is going to finish fourth in this championship, with Valtteri Bottas a further 32 points behind Sebastian Vettel. So actually it's a pretty gapped out top 5 or 6 really for the championship. It's all pretty spread out. Of course, it's close between Massa and Ricciardo, the Williams and the Red Bulls there. But Jenson Button, look at that, he's only 6 points behind Max Verstappen for 10th place in the championship. Who'd have thought that for McLaren Honda? So hopefully JB can get into the top 10. It'll be impressive for Verstappen to get into the top 10. Of course, we've still got one round after this, but there you see the constructors. But anyway, let's head over now to the qualifying. So, welcome to the qualifying report for the Brazilian Grand Prix. Q1 gets underway first in Brazil, of course, with the championships already decided pretty much between Mercedes, Red Bull and Ferrari. So, it's going to basically be a best of the rest fight till the end of the season between Red Bull and Ferrari. But as Q2 got underway, unfortunately there was an FP3 crash for Kimi Raikkonen earlier on before qualifying, which was unable to compete in Q1 even, unable to get the car out, and there we saw him in P20. So not a great result for Kimi Raikkonen after winning the World Championship there. Fernando Alonso continuing with issues with his McLaren Honda, only managed to qualify P17 after what was a pretty shoddy lap he described afterwards, really not being able to get the balance of the McLaren Honda throughout that session. Jenson Button also proving McLaren Honda's weaknesses around Brazil, only managed P16, able to get into Q2, but still McLaren Honda lacking power down that back straight, cost them around anywhere from half a second to 8/10 they believe. Lotus ended their season with an unfortunate run in Q2, with Pastor Maldonado only managing P15 for what will be his second to last race with the Lotus team before they turn to Renault. Meanwhile, Marcus Ericsson getting a pretty good result for the Swiss outfit in P14 in Q2, obviously strapped for cash this season, so pretty decent to see them into Q2 and hopefully be able to push that car forwards for 2016. Carlos Sainz only managed P13 after being caught up in traffic in Q2. He believes he could have got more out of his Toro Rosso car, particularly being strong in the middle sector. So more to come from the Spaniard in the race. Nico Hülkenberg managed a disappointing P12 for him. A lot of disappointment in Q2 as he believed that Mercedes engine should have given him more performance in the first and last sectors, with seemingly Force India struggling in the middle sector. Max Verstappen proving why he's getting the promotion to Red Bull in 2016, getting his Toro Rosso just outside the top 10 with P11. A good result for the teenager still, who's got much to learn for his years in Red Bull to come. So Q3 got underway and we saw Daniel Ricciardo qualifying in 10th position. Of course, the two future Red Bull teammates, Ricciardo and Verstappen, lining up next to each other on the grid, which should make for an interesting start going into turn 1. Sergio Perez continued his impressive run of qualifying form by qualifying his Force India into P9, therefore outqualified his teammate Nico Hülkenberg, and also showing that Force India actually does have some pretty decent pace for when it comes to the race. But the big surprise of Q3 was Felipe Nasr being able to get his Sauber up into P10, Marcus Ericsson obviously down in P13, so Nasr towards the end of the season for his home Grand Prix managing to get his car into P8. Romain Grosjean also outshining his teammate at Lotus, qualifying a solid P7 for his Lotus Mercedes car. Of course, going into Renault next season, still unconfirmed whether Grosjean will be at that team. Daniel Kvyat out-qualified his teammate Daniel Ricciardo for what will be his second last race with the Red Bull outfit before being demoted down to Toro Rosso alongside Carlos Sainz, which should make for a pretty spicy lineup. Felipe Massa qualified P5 in front of his Brazilian crowd, unable to quite get it on the first row, but still nonetheless a pretty good showing for Williams, with his teammate Valtteri Bottas qualified in P3, splitting the two Ferraris, which Bottas was pretty pleased with. The rumour mill still going around whether Bottas could be going to Ferrari to replace Sebastian Vettel, of course, alongside Kimi Raikkonen, making for a double finish lineup there at Ferrari. Nico Rosberg qualified P2 for the Brazilian Grand Prix, a circuit which he says he really likes, but at the end of the day in Q3 he just couldn't quite get the lap hooked up as sweetly as he did in Q2 and Q1, of course topping both of those sessions, which just led his teammate Lewis Hamilton to get pole position for the Brazilian Grand Prix. Of course, Ayrton Senna being his boyhood hero, he's going to want to perform for the Brazilian crowd for what should be a pretty exciting Grand Prix ahead for us. So just let's remind you of the top 10. Daniel Ricciardo P10 with Sergio Perez, Nasser and Grosjean, Kvyat, Massa, Vettel, Bottas and the two Mercedes lined up on the front row with Hamilton's dominant pole position. So here we are, guys, we're lined up on the grid for once again another disappointing qualifying result for us down in P20. We're just going to load our Brazilian Grand Prix setup, I believe. No, we don't bother in the end, okay, fine. So we're just having a look at the strategy. Apparently it's a 3-stop for intermediate, so really high tyre wear here in Brazil for the intermediate tyre, but I've got a feeling that towards the end of the race we could see it dry out quite considerably here if the rain does stop falling. But of course, being Brazil, it could be anything, but there's 5 red lights. And away we go for the Brazilian Grand Prix. And we get actually a pretty decent start, has to be said. I mean, we are comparing our start to the Manners. So, so close to the back of Stevens there. But we're going to gingerly put it down the inside. We've got Pastor Maldonado next to us. But apparently we got illegal overtakes on multiple drivers there. So I don't really understand how we got that. But we're down to P20 again. So could actually lead to a pretty interesting race, because of course the first corner or first lap is actually really easy to make up positions. As you can see, the AI are just so slow, so maybe starting further back later on in this first lap might actually make for a more interesting race. We'll have to see about that. But Roberto Merri going incredibly slowly, he must have had a problem going into that corner. But we're just going to go right round the outside of all these cars. We probably took a slight advantage there with track limits, I'm not going to lie. That did, you know, all 4 wheels were off the track, but hey, the game didn't recognise it, and after all, that's all it is a game. But we're going up the inside of Nico Hülkenberg now, so already up to P12 in a matter of 1 sector pretty much. I understand the track extending, but we're going to go up the inside of Max Verstappen now for P11, and we're 1 spot away from the points as yellow flags have come out somewhere. So we're going to have a look at a replay of what happened there. And we're just going to have a look. Oh, Verstappen just got wiped out entirely by what appeared to be one of the Force Indias, I think. So we're going to ride on board with Max Verstappen, who had a good run of form in qualifying. And yeah, Nico Hülkenberg just turned into him. And he's just parked up on the grass there. So he's down probably to the back of the field. But we're on the back of both the Red Bulls now. And up the inside of Daniel Ricciardo. But he's not going to give that position up. We tried to squeeze him out, but he wasn't having any of it. Luckily, we was on the so-called karting wet line there, so we had good grip. And we get up the inside of the other Red Bull. So Red Bull, which normally suits the wet conditions, dropping back slightly. Kvyat actually dropping back towards Ricciardo as we make a late dive on Nasser there. Of course, Sauber running with Ferrari engines, and we squeeze him out for what was an audacious move. But now we're on the back of Romain Grosjean coming on to lap 3. And round the outside, is this going to be on the Frenchman in that Lotus Mercedes, of course, and a beautiful move once again, taking full use of the karting line as they refer to it in the commentary box. And now we're in P6 on lap 4. We're coming to the back of both the Williams. So Sebastian Vettel's managed to get ahead of Valtteri Bottas now as we go up the inside of the Brazilian Felipe Massa to knock him down to P6. And now Valtteri Bottas getting a really bad run through that left-hander. Of course, we know the Williams is not great in the wet, so Sebastian Vettel using that to good advantage there, as now we're coming up to lap 6 behind Vettel and Rosberg, who's actually caused a bit of a train there, obviously finding it hard to get heat into his tyres as we're going up the inside, round the outside of Sebastian Vettel there. We throw up our hand in frustration because he just understeers into us. So we've gone down the inside, we've won both Constructors and Drivers' Championships, so we're free to race, and we gave him as much space as we could, but he just simply understeered into us. And here's actually us coming back live, and we get caught up on Nico Rosberg there. I actually understeered into him, so it was my bad, but then we just got glued together, and then Rosberg just comes back on the track and just wipes out Sebastian Vettel, as we can see from Seb's view. And just look at that, no damage whatsoever to Seb's car, but that has definitely taken him out of a possibly even a podium chance here in Brazil. But we're putting it up to Rich as Hamilton's got into the pits for what I believe to be another set of intermediate tyres. The conditions haven't got worse, but they certainly haven't improved. So on lap 10, we're just going to push, see how hard we can go, and coming to the end of lap 10, we put our car into lean mix. We've got a lot of tyre wear on that set of intermediate tyres, so we're coming into the pits now for our first stop of the race. Of course, in F1 2016, if you've missed out on any news of it, you will be able to have the option to do the pit entry by yourself. So like it was in F1 2010, I believe, you had to actually slow down for that pit entry line. So that'll be a pretty cool feature for career modes, and yeah, could lead to a lot of issues online if people don't turn it off in the settings. But getting back to the race now, there you can see Lewis Hamilton just going round the first corner, and he's only, I want to say, a couple seconds down the road there. So we made a pretty good use of that overcut, which is actually pretty surprising because the undercut on fresh tyres is normally the way to go with these F1 games. But as it turned out, you know, the overcut worked pretty well. And as you can see on lap 14, we are right on the back of Lewis Hamilton here. So going to be able to make a move stick, hopefully, up the inside here. We think about it, but we've already had two lots of contact with Vettel and Rosberg earlier on. So we're thinking to be a little bit more cautious here with that. And we're just coming on to the back of Lewis Hamilton down this straight now. We're going to put our car into lead to save up the rear tyres, and we're going up the inside. We're going to try and block the inside for this part of the Senna S's, and we actually run wide there, lose our grip entirely, and Hamilton just takes that position back, and he's squeezing us almost off the circuit there. So that could have led in a pretty big incident itself there. But coming through now to the middle sector, this has been probably our strongest sector, but we just sat behind Hamilton through that sector waiting to get a good run. But that Mercedes traction and just the way that engine delivers its power out of corners was just too good for us down this straight. Of course, no DRS, so we're just going to have to rely on rich fuel mix and slipstream. We're closing in right at the end. Are we going to go for a move up the inside? Yes, we are. We don't quite get any contact. We give him enough room, but he just completely balls up that corner as we mess up the exit. And again, going wide to try and keep the tyres cool, but Hamilton, he's not keeping cool with us. He's just squeezed us right off the track whenever he can. So I guess it's probably typical of Lewis Hamilton in real life. As soon as he sees Nico Rosberg going for a move, he'll just try and squeeze him off. But we all saw what happened in Austria when Nico tried to go for an overtake. But we're going to try and go around the outside of Hamilton, squeeze us to the white line as is permitted, of course, and he just gives up the position. He just sits behind us now on lap 18, and well, that's us into the Grand Prix lead, I think. So Hamilton's probably not going to mount an attack unless we make a mistake through this corner, which once again we do. We've put it in lean fuel mix, but he's not side by side with us here coming out of this Senna S, so we should be good now coming into the middle sector, which is our strongest sector in on this circuit. So we should be looking pretty good now to the end of the race. Hamilton, of course, still right in the back of our gearbox, but it's through this section where we're particularly strong as I go wide, as I keep going wide. And Hamilton's, yeah, he's got back up the inside of us. So I'm making myself look like a fool saying this is our strongest sector, and Hamilton just completely go wheel to wheel with us. Oh my lord, this is getting way too close for comfort. So we caught on the rear tyre of Hamilton there. This game's physics, when you get caught on another car, can be a bit off. So like if you get your front wing stuck under, like, oh not under, but stuck on someone's tyre, like can be really annoying to try and get it off. But as you can see, DRS enabled on lap 19 as Hamilton's come into the pit for front wing damage. So I don't know what happened there. He wasn't near us coming into turn 1. So Hamilton must have just had it off on his own. So he's come into the pits for front wing change and also another set of intermediate tyres. So as you can see, the weather is not holding off. And on lap 22, we come into the pits for our second tyre change. So we've managed to go 12 laps on this stint. We went 10 laps on the first stint. So if we keep going like this, we should be able to go to the end of the Grand Prix because there's only 13 laps left. So we should be able to make this. Oh, we make a bold move. I've only just realised that we've made a bold move to go on to the. Is that option tyres or is that the prime tyres around Brazil? I'm not too sure. It's the prime tyre, the medium tyre, and look, there's no. Look, the rain's still falling and there's no drying lines. So I'm not really too. Okay, I guess we just made a gamble there to go on. Blimey, I'm surprised we did that, but actually Ericsson is just got, oh, blue flags, okay. I did wonder why he just completely got out of the way and just messed up that corner, but yeah, really odd actually why we decided to go on the prime tyre when we did. Rosberg, who I believe is on the intermediate tyre, has just done a 1:15.4, so maybe it is just about that crossover point now as we come on to lap 2017, starting for lap 28, and Hamilton just set the fastest lap into the 1:14s now, and I think he was on the intermediate tyres. Unless they've all come in for another pit stop, we may have made a mistake possibly, I don't know. The track is dry, and as we can see, a 1:14.8 there, so if they're on the intermediates and we're on these slick tyres, then we possibly could be looking good to the end of the race. Hamilton a 1:14.5 now, so I think there's definitely no question he too is now on the prime or option tyre. He's on slick tyres, and as you can see, it actually recommend us to come into the pits there. So our medium tyres really not lasting that well for it to come on to lap 30 and recommended us to come into the pits, but we carry on anyway. I don't think we've got too many issues with wear, and as you can see, a 1:13.7, so definitely now the right time to be on slick tyres. So this is a really confusing part of the race, but on lap 31, as you saw, our tyre wear was just appalling. They wanted us to come in lap 29, so I think we're going to come in the pits for what should be, well, will be our final stop, but I think we're going to go on to these soft tyres now, yeah, soft tyres, and we'll just see what we can do to the end of the race. I'm really not sure what's going on with the strategy of cars behind. As you can see, Rosberg are on 13.3 now, so he must be on the soft tyres as well, potentially, setting fastest laps. It's just a ding-dong with me and the two Mercedes for fastest lap. Rosberg are 1:12.9, so he's definitely on slick tyres now. So turns out those guys that went on intermediates while I was on the prime tyre, they came in just for another set of slick tyres, and it was just the crossover point, which was why we were setting similar lap times. But coming down this final straight on lap 33, I think this is going to be our fastest lap of the race coming up now. Yes, a 1:11.9. As we saw, Rosberg did a 1:13.9, I believe. So just dominating on these option tyres, which led no one to touch us coming on to the final lap. And we've won the Brazilian Grand Prix in brilliant fashion.
A very memorable race, and one that Kimi Raikkonen won't forget anytime soon after a wonderful win for the Ferrari driver today.
It's been a great day's racing, and it's fair to say that they deserved that win. Their strategy was spot on.
It was great having you with us for this weekend. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Until next time though, goodbye.
So there we are, we ended up winning by what appears to be a pretty massive gap of 50 seconds. So as you can see, Rosberg did a 4-stop, Hamilton did 5 stops, of course he did have that front wing issue. We only did 3 stops, but Nico Rosberg right at the end, almost taking fastest lap away from us. He was just 700ths slower than us, but as you can see, Vettel, Bottas finishing outside the top 10 there, so not good result for our teammate or Valtteri Bottas. So we see now in the Drivers' Championship it's pretty meaningless, but Rosberg is 136 points behind us, with Hamilton 145 points behind, with Vettel 185. So the battle really is for second place between Rosberg and Hamilton, with just 9 points separating them. Ferrari are Constructors' Champions, 96 points, but that's it for this video guys. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like. Until next time, take care.